but stick with me on this. 20% of the population struggle with lateness. And maybe you've had that friend or that family member who's always late, damn it. I have to say, I have at times in my life been guilty of this, but apparently there's help at hand. Joining me now is Grace G Pacie, author of Late, A Time Bender's Guide to Why We Are Late and How We Can Change, which implies that maybe we can change. Joining me now is Gracie. Gracie, thank you so much for joining me. So are you talking from experience? Are you one of those people who tends to always be late?
I absolutely am, Trisha. I've been late all my life. And you might be surprised to hear that I hate being late. So why am I late? It's such a good question. And I couldn't find the answer.
Yes, I was going to ask you that.
There are so many books about procrastination or time management. But why am I late when I don't want to be? Why do I cause such upset and inconvenience to my loved ones when I don't want that to happen? So I decided to do my own research, because there's one thing we can be sure of. We know who the people are who are on the verge of being late. They're the ones that never turn up early. They turn up just in time. And I've discovered that there are ways that so not everybody who has this tendency is always late, because we find ways of managing it.
Right.
But the whole point is you can't change your personality. You're actually born that way. On the one hand, about 20% of us tend to be just on time or a little bit late. On the other hand, and we all know these people as well,
right,
they are so worried about being early that they turn up, 20 minutes or even half an hour early. And I don't think people have really spent much time thinking about that or what can be done about it.
Now, okay, so did you find out why you were always late? Because I mentioned there earlier that I always used to be late, and I actually worked out why that was. And I worked out that, in my job, which I've been working in the media for 36 plus years, other people always managed my time. I had to be there, I had to do this, I had to do that, I had to do this. And I worked out it was kind of my way of rebelling and saying my life isn't my own. And then it became a habit. And I think once I worked that out, once I managed to take people managing my diary and manage my everything away, I became more comfortable. Also, in a relationship, I realized I was having relationships with people, and turning up late was kind of, again, a protest against doing something I didn't really want to do. I'm now in a relationship which feels equal and I feel valued. So that tool, if you like, is no longer, useful. Did you find anything like that behind the reasons why you always tend to be late?
Well, that's really interesting, because you have tried to psychoanalyze why you're late. And wouldn't you think that there would be psychologists out there that would have done that? But I would love to hear I'm wrong, but I haven't found any real insights into why people are late. It does seem to be, we talk about neurodiversity, it is something different in our brains. We're born that way. You've got some really interesting insights. In my book, I actually share different ideas, but I'm not the person to come to a conclusion, but I can say, A, how do I make myself late when I don't want to be? And B, what can I do about it?
Yeah.
So would you like some insights into how we end up being late? So
yes, yes, please.
Well, as a simple insight, people at our end of the spectrum don't like being early. It's not logical, but we feel we're wasting time if we're early. So we aim for the deadline, but aiming for the deadline means we don't allow for the things that happen in real life. And so, as we know, so the time we allow for a journey means that we assume that there's no traffic, that the lights are going to be green, and that we'll find the perfect parking space. Well, that's not what happens. So guess what? We're 5 or 10 minutes late, ready with whatever excuse sounds credible. one of the other strange things, this thing about being early, we might set out saying, I want to be 5 minutes early, 10 minutes early, particularly for a regular class. That's one of our particular bugbears. But just as we're going out the door, we go, oh, I think I might just go back and check I've turned off the iron, or, I mean, particularly get your bottle of water from the fridge. We don't even allow for the time that we need to get out the door. So we assume that we go, oh, I'm ready to go now.
Right.
And that we will then be shutting the car door and off. Well, how long does it take? It takes 5 or 10 minutes to do that. But we somehow blank out the transition time we need. What else do we do? We're not very good at measuring time. But I
was going to say the other thing. What happens? Do you think it can change you if you're always late? And, you know, British people are very polite and might not say anything about it. But I remember back in my days of being late once with a girlfriend. She finally got sick of it. We were meeting at the cinema. I'd left her waiting at the cinema. She'd bought me in a paper cup, you could have a glass of wine or what have you. And she was, and I walked up to her and I came with, because this is the other thing of being late. You make up all these reasons. Well, I'll tell them that, I'll tell them this. And I just had my mouth ready to give all these reasons. And she threw this cup of wine in my face and said, I bought you wine, there it is. I was so embarrassed. I have to say, it still didn't stop me being late. But do you think if people actually tackled you about being late verbally, would that help stop it rather than people just grin and bear it?
It does, from the point of view that the one really simple thing that it helps both the people who are late and the people who have to live or be friends with them to understand is we can be on time when the deadline is real, external, and has consequences. So what your friend did for you is showed that if you weren't going to be on time next time, the same horrible thing might happen to you. And therefore, the next time you will prioritize that and you will be on time. And that was one of the key things that people tell me is an insight into the research, was that we say we can be on time when it matters. So actually, I mean, I call what I do, I call it, I don't like the word late. The word late is completely loaded with all the people that rightly criticize people like me for being late. But there's more to it than just lateness. It is a personality type. And I just would like to throw in, there is a positive side to people who are late. In particular, because we have a different attitude to time, which means that if you come up to us and say, oh, could you just help me with this? Our response will be, yes, we can. So we are flexible and we are adaptable and we have time for you. That classic thing, if you want somebody to help you, ask a busy person. That's a time bender, because we think we can see time as stretchable. If you look at the other end of the spectrum, those people who are very anxious about being late, they see time as being 10 minutes of the work takes 10% of the time. So they feel very uncomfortable if they're asked to speed up. They need plenty of time, and that's why they need to be so early, because they hate that sense of being rushed. I'm going to say you and I and people like us, we actually enjoy that sense of there's a deadline and we find we can focus really effectively. And there are certain jobs that we're very good at doing. And believe it or not, they're jobs with deadlines, because we can respond very well to a real deadline. Right. But the problem is...
You're right. Now, we've reached our deadline. Unfortunately, we've reached our deadline right now. There you go. I mean, self-fulfilling prophecy. Let's just remind people of the book, Grace. Grace Pacie, the author of Late, A Time Bender's Guide to Why We Are Late and How We Can Change. Lots of interesting information in that book. Maybe you're one of those people who's always late. Maybe you're that person I thought of the brilliant present for my friend who's always late. But there you are. Time Bender's Guide to Why We're Late and How We Can Change. Coming up, ADHD.